Hello one and all, welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to Porsche Heaven. Now, if you've been watching my recent videos, you know I'm actually currently on a road trip in my Ferrari 360. I just completed a tour of Morocco in it. But I'm now back in mainland Europe and in Portugal, heading north to Porto, where I'm going to be attending an amazing event with the Ferrari in a few days' time. But before we get there, I had to stop off here because, well, look around. I mean, there's a 959 behind me. This is Sport Classe. I was last here in 2019. It's an amazing independent Porsche specialist with the most incredible Porsche racing and rallying heritage. They specialise in everything from 1950s and 60s Porsches all the way through to the modern day stuff, doing restorations, refurbishments, sales, etc. And actually, speaking of 1950s and 60s Porsches, that's the main focus for today. Because on this channel I often bang on about my kind of love/obsession with 1960s cars, but mainly English and Italian 1960s cars, because I've never actually experienced a 1960s Porsche. But today that is going to change, because yes, I'm going to be getting behind the wheel of a Porsche 356, the original Porsche. This one is from the 1960s. We're going to be giving it the ultimate Seen Through Glass/Porsche test by taking it to get a coffee. Now, before I leave, I've got to quickly just show you around this place because there's so many amazing cars on display. I mean, for example, these four cars I feel like perfectly sum up the range of cars that Sport Classe ever have in or are working on. Down below, some super modern stuff, a 991.2 GT3 RS with the Weissach pack, a 991 GT3, and then above, some incredible heritage race cars, a 906, which I've actually sat in. Last time I was here, I got in that car, which was very difficult to do because it's about 30 inches tall, and obviously a 935 as well, and some beautiful old Targa here getting a full restoration. That colour is stunning. We go something old like that to something newer, a 997 Speedster, incredibly rare, this thing, sometimes overlooked because, well, theoretically it's just, I think it's a Carrera S, maybe it's a GTS underneath, but obviously with the iconic Speedster body, and the madness continues. You've got work bays at the back here with various cars going through restorations or refurbishments. Check out this 356 Roadster. That body is just a stunner with, look, there you go, the engine right underneath it about to be slotted in. They do all their own engine work here. Super cool. And then you've got some of these heritage race cars from Andre, who I'm sure will appear in this video and has appeared in my previous videos, his grandfather's race cars up here. Super cool. Look at this Tati 912. I love how beaten up that is. Apparently underneath this body the car is mechanically brand new, well, not brand new, but being fully restored and refurbished, so it's just looking like it's tired and beaten up, which I adore. Got a very casual 2.7 RS, just, you know, just hanging out, just, you know, we'll just dump it underneath the lift, you know, that'll be fine. And then up here again, you might recognise that car right there, which is Andre's grandfather's rally car, which we went out in last time I was here. It's one of the loudest cars I've ever been in. It was an absolute blast. But yeah, so much on display here, so much to drool over. I basically just want to get immediately on the phone to Magnitude Finance and be like, give me quotes on all of this stuff. I keep saying to Andre, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? Hoping at some point he's going to be like, oh, this one's free, Sam. You can just have this one, just drive away in it. But anyway, none of these cars that I'm drooling over would exist without this, the 356. This is where it all began for Porsche. Well, I fit. That's already a good start because it's a very big steering wheel. Like a pro. Look at that. I'm racking my brains. I don't think I've even sat in a 356 before, let alone driven one, and now here I am, about to head out to the roads around Lisbon in this car. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, I've got to be honest. Ah! Brake pedal's a bit squidgy. Now I've got Andre from Sport Classe behind me in another car. He's actually going to be leading the way, so I've somehow got to let him overtake me at some point because I have no idea where I'm going. First impressions are, well, it feels a lot older in here than many other 1960s cars I've driven. Okay, we're moving. Just about. That could be because Porsche first started making these cars in 1948. And in a very Porsche way, they just sort of slowly or incrementally updated it for the 15 or 20 years that they then continued to produce the car. So yeah, I just feel like this dash layout and so many of these elements feel more 1950s than 1960s, because this is a 1963 356B. We'll probably get into what that means shortly, but yeah, I just want to get used to it all first. I have to say, in a predictably Porsche way, everything is, well, actually very easy to use and to maneuver. I mean, I've literally never driven one of these cars before, and immediately the gear lever is exactly where I want it to be. The clutch is very responsive. Yes, the brake pedal is squishy, but that's because we're on drum brakes that are pretty old. I'm sure they've been refurbished by Sport Classe, but anyway, here we go. Second gear, it's a 4-speed gearbox, so we're not going to be shifting that much, and oh my god, we're onto like a big motorway. Andre, what are you doing to me, man? I do have a side mirror, thank god, because a lot of 356s didn't, and I don't think I'd want to be driving out here in Lisbon without a lot of good visibility. Although this car's tiny, if I turn my head I can see it, can see everything. The car's this big. I seem to be spending my life on ferries at the moment. Good thing that I love them. Not. But we're heading over to Troia. That's where the coffee/lunch stop today is. Apparently it's a super picturesque and beautiful region, and this is a very short ferry journey, so I will tolerate it. Anyway, quick recap/history lesson on the 356 then. If you're somebody who often gets overwhelmed or confused by the word of Porsche, you don't really know what I'm talking about when I say a 997.2 or a 991.1 or the Targa GTS or the Carrera 4S, well, bear with me, because essentially Porsche have been doing that since day one. Like I mentioned, they first started producing the 356 in 1948. The first 50 cars were actually made in a factory in Austria, in Gmünd, and they're called the Gmünd cars. They're very desirable for collectors. Main production was relocated to Germany and kind of started in the 1950s. So we have the 356, then the 356A, 356B, and the 356C. And essentially all you need to know is that for each of those generations or models, Porsche just slowly or incrementally improved things. They took what was already a fantastic base product and just made it a little bit better, like they do with the modern day 911. It was actually such a good base product that they made it in 1948, and in 1951 it was winning its class at Le Mans. Yeah, that's how great out of the box this car was. Now, for the 356B, of which this is, you essentially could only have a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder, but you had the choice of power output. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 60 horsepower, 75 horsepower, and 90 horsepower. This is a Super 90, the 90 horsepower engine, so the kind of juiciest you could get. There was a Motorsport Carrera engine, a bit like the GT product of today, but that's hard to come by, and yeah, it was a bit more powerful. But this was your day-to-day goer, and I say at 90 horsepower, it was a lot, because these cars weigh just 900 kilos. If you think about it, even today, Porsche have kind of stuck true to that, not chasing crazy horsepower figures, but instead focusing on balance, weight, handling, dynamics, etc. Ferrari and Lamborghini are making 1,000 horsepower supercars left, right and centre, while Porsche are only making 500 horsepower GT3s. So yeah, whilst it is a bit complex, because you also had coupes, cabriolets, roadsters, speedsters, etc., it's not dissimilar to today, even though you can get lost in all the variations of 356, just as I say, sort of copy and paste it onto a modern day 911 and the various generations, then it starts to make sense, or at least it does to me. Anyway, I think we're actually almost arriving in Troia, a very short journey in well, so I need to retrain myself on the startup procedure of this car, because it's not that straightforward. You sort of turn the key just a little bit and then, anyway, pump the... Wish me luck, people. Keep going with the gas. I think it's my technique. I don't think it's anything to do with the car, it's my technique.
Because at the workshop we did first time and run straight away. Put the foot all the way down.
All the way down?
Yeah.
We got there eventually. Hey. Well, Andre wasn't wrong. This place is super pretty. Anyway, let's get into it. The thing that's really impressed me so far about this experience is how it shows how much Porsche have stayed true to their initial concept. Everything about this car is exactly how you kind of want or expect it to be. It's really straightforward. I know it's just going to keep going and keep working, apart from the slightly interesting startup procedure, which I think I'm getting wrong. The car just moves, honestly, like Andre just threw me the keys and said, let's go, and look, here we are, flying along these beachy roads. Every other experience I've had in a 1960s car has been like, just be aware, it doesn't really go into first gear, or make sure you double the clutch, don't tip the car in too fast, you might bend the front fender, like so many things that you've got to think about. This is, off you go. It's a Porsche. And genuinely, I feel like I can go and do Le Mans and be fine and then drive home. Which is the beauty of a 911, but also clearly a 356, and that is for me the bit that makes this special. And it makes more so modern Porsches more special. Look at these views now. It is a bit of a cruiser, this thing. I can feel like I can kind of sit back. It's almost got a bit of Americana about it. It's a very sort of enclosed cockpit, but I got these big armchair-like seats, and yeah, like just taking this incredible view and poodle along with that lovely four-cylinder burbling away behind me. It's a really, really nice car. Well, we've made it to today's coffee stop, which is Sublime Comporta Beach Club, and I'm forcing Andre on camera. I know it's his least favourite thing in the world, but you spend your life around Porsches. What do you think, or how do you reference a 356? Like, is it just the origin story, or do you actually get a kick out of them? Because I've really enjoyed my experience today.
Well, it's a different car. What I feel is that we have to understand the era that the car was created. Of course, if we sit down in a car from the 60s and a car from 2020, it's a completely different experience. But the roots, I think the roots are still there.
I feel it. I sense the DNA. I mean, you know, maybe it's just because I'm looking for it, but I still think it's a Porsche. Like, it doesn't feel wholly different. As you say, it's just aged. It's just dated.
And everything is useful. Like,
yeah,
they just put what's needed in the car.
They put what's needed. So I'm driving a Super 90. What, like, is a Speedster like a whole nother level above, or is it similar, just with a lot of air in your face? Like,
pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay.
Pretty much
okay.
that.
So, have you driven a Carrera? Have you driven a?
No. A Carrera never. The Speedster, it's even older than the car that you are driving.
Kind of intrigued by that. I like old, man. I like old. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience, and this is an incredible occasion. So, good choice by this man. And as I mentioned, it's also the lunch stop, not just the coffee stop. So we're going to enjoy some food and then a coffee. Then get back into the cars. And I think I just want to I want to open that car. I feel like the more you rev it, like all Porsches, kind of comes to life a bit.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've got to go find some fast sections after our coffee. Well, that food was delicious. The coffee was pretty good, but look at this. I'm out here living my best life in the 356, which is spitting and gargling behind me. Oh, I'm starting to really enjoy this little car. I don't want to call it cute, it feels condescending, but because of its size, I can't really help but think of it as cute. It's just so rewarding, it's so effective. you might be thinking that this particular 356 is so good because Sport Classe are probably giving it a full restoration or maybe are refurbishing it as we speak. But no, this is a super original car. In fact, one of the previous owners actually had it for 40 years. He was a bit of a cliched classic Porsche owner. He used to even write down whenever he refueled it. It's meant that he's ended up with a history file that's about this big. Really needs to get on Custodian. Well, they can digitalise all of that. That's how I manage my 360. But jokes aside, it proves that if you look after your Porsche, it just keeps going. It's like that Moon Miles 997 GT3 I drove a few years ago. And this thing's got 91,500 miles on it, and look at it. I'm out here cracking on. And okay, it's still 1963, so the brakes are fairly non-existent and the steering is interesting. But as we know, these cars went off to Le Mans and won. So it's definitely capable and it's rewarding. As long as you remember those brakes and set the car up correctly, but I'm genuinely having fun. And I've not been able to push on in many other 1960s cars like this. Okay, to be brutally honest, this thing doesn't give me the same sparkle in my barkle as some British and Italian 60s cars, but it almost doesn't need to because it's rewarding in so many other ways. It's a Porsche. It is a Porsche. It makes me want to drive so many other 356s, especially a Roadster or a Speedster on a day like this. But yeah, one with an even fruitier engine or an Outlaw. This is absolutely ace. That's what I love about driving cars from this era. It just transports you to another time and another era of driving. You can pretend like it's 1963 and you just had wonderful lunch at a beach bar, and now you're going for a bit of a spirited drive with your mates. I'm so happy. What a day. What an absolute day on what a little car. Well, you find me back at my hotel where I have genuinely been looking at 356s online. I enjoyed my experience that much. Frustratingly, I don't think they're on the Magnitude finance calculator, so I've got to wait till Monday, it's a weekend today, to email Tim at Magnitude for a personalised quote. But I can't believe how affordable, bear with me, 356s are. I found like a number of 356Bs and Cs, even from mainline dealers in the UK, for sub 100k, like 80 or 90 grand. Okay, I know that's a lot of money, but for a 1960s car from a super reputable sports car manufacturer, I think it's kind of unheard of. I mean, I can't think of many Ferraris from the 1960s you can get sub 100 grand, or Lamborghinis, okay, maybe some Maseratis or some Alfa Romeos, but it's a Porsche. Like, I am like really onto this, guys. So watch this space. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I realized it was super loud in that car, so hopefully you could hear me all right, but it's been an absolute blast. So huge thanks to Sport Classe. I'll be back with them hopefully later this year to film some more exciting stuff. Hey, maybe even the restoration of my 356. But subscribe now, turn on notifications, because there are plenty more adventures still to come.